So the government are promising in the coming budget to increase carbon tax. They're going to save the planet by pushing grannies into fuel poverty. After the budget, it's going to cost you €19.40 for a tank of kerosene. Your yearly gas bill's going to go up by $16.95. A 40 kilo bag of coal is going to go up by 89 cents. The government hopes to raise $108 million in 2022 through carbon taxes, and $147 million in 2023. And while they've introduced a relief scheme for businesses to offset the costs of carbon tax on the businesses, working class people will be penalised for the actions of polluting corporations. The government's saying it's going to increase fuel allowance by €3.50. But you're only entitled to fuel allowance if everyone in your house is on welfare. And even then, the €3.50 is 3 to 4 times less than the increases that are coming because of carbon tax. 28% of people in Ireland live in fuel poverty, meaning that they can't pay their energy bills. 240,000 people are behind on their ESB bills before the changes coming in the budget. 112,000 people are behind on their gas bills before the changes coming in this budget. A study by the St Vincent de Paul shows that ESB and gas have gone up by 29% since 2010. And the worst thing is, there's already about 2,000 excess deaths because of fuel poverty every single year. So the government is going to save the planet by leaving corporations untouched and pushing old people into premature death because they can't keep their home warm. There's a reason that ExxonMobil and the big oil corporations and fossil fuel corporations actually support carbon taxes. Why? Because they know that they leave them untouched. And carbon tax distributes the punishment for climate change and the punishment for pollution across the whole of society. How is that fair when 100 big corporations cause 70% of the pollution? Not some granny down in Oliver Bond Flats or struggling to get by in an estate in Limerick. And if you look internationally, the carbon tax doesn't work. British Columbia in Canada claimed a 1 to 2% reduction in carbon emissions. But this was back in 2008, just after the banking crisis, when loads of companies were shutting down. So of course carbon emissions went down. It had nothing to do with the carbon tax. And companies there could also apply for rebates. So while fuel prices go up for everyone, the big businesses were holding out their hands for corporate welfare. The OECD has revealed that 74% of the revenue from carbon taxes internationally just go back to general government revenues. So all these governments aren't even spending the money they get from carbon tax on the environment or helping the environment or even planting trees or anything like that. And in the last few years, emissions in British Columbia have actually gone up by 10%. It's typical of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael and even the Greens to try and keep the system of corporate inequality going by bringing in a climate measure that's not even a real effective climate measure, that leaves the big corporations and the real polluters untouched. And meanwhile, it's ordinary working class people that always take the hit. We have to name the problem if we want to solve it. And the problem is corporate capitalism. And we won't solve it unless we understand that the fight for housing, the fight against vulture funds, the fight against corporate control of government, the fight against the capitalist system by working class people is the same fight as the climate fight. It's the same corporations and the same greed that's destroying the planet.